5 mind-blowing whale secrets. The largest animal that has ever existed on this planet is alive right now, swimming in our oceans. Its heart is the size of a golf cart. Its tongue weighs as much as an African elephant. And when it dies and sinks to the ocean floor, its body will sustain an entire deep-sea ecosystem for up to 100 years. But perhaps the most unbelievable fact about the blue whale, with over 37 trillion cells in its body, 1,000 times more than a human, it almost never gets cancer. These are the secrets of whales, and they will change how you think about life on Earth. Breath-holding mammals. Every few minutes, a 150-ton blue whale must do something no fish ever needs to do: rise to the surface and take a breath. Because despite spending their entire lives in the ocean, whales are not fish. They are mammals, just like you. Whales breathe air through lungs, not gills. They have a blowhole on top of their heads, essentially a nostril that migrated upward over 50 million years of evolution. A single breath can exchange up to 90% of the air in their lungs, compared to just 10 to 15% for humans. Their body temperature stays at around 37 degrees Celsius, the same as yours, maintained by a thick layer of blubber that can be up to 50 centimeters thick, and they nurse their young. A blue whale mother produces over 200 liters of milk per day, milk so rich in fat, around 35%, that her calf gains nearly 90 kilograms every single day. That's roughly 4 kilograms per hour. The calf goes from weighing about 2.5 tons at birth to nearly 8 tons by the time it's weaned at just 7 months old. 50 million years ago, the ancestors of whales walked on land. They had 4 legs, resembled something between a wolf and a hippo, and lived near the water's edge. Over millions of years, they returned to the sea. Legs shrank into flippers, nostrils moved to the top of their heads, and their bodies became streamlined. But they never lost their mammalian core. They still breathe air, still feel warmth, and still nurse their babies with milk. The ocean's greatest giants carry the legacy of land-dwelling ancestors in every cell. The largest animal that ever lived. A blue whale's heart is the size of a small car. A child could crawl through its largest artery. And when it beats, just 5 to 6 times per minute during a deep dive, each beat sends 220 liters of blood surging through a body that can weigh over 170 tons. A single blue whale weighs as much as 33 African elephants, or 25 Tyrannosaurus rexes, or about 2,700 adult humans on the same scale. Its tongue alone weighs about 2.7 tons, heavier than most cars. Its newborn calf enters the world already weighing 2.5 tons, heavier at birth than an adult hippopotamus. Even its blood vessels are enormous. The aorta is wide enough for a human head to fit through. But the blue whale wasn't always the largest animal on Earth. For most of their evolutionary history, whales were modest in size. The explosion in body size happened only about 3 to 5 million years ago, when ice ages restructured the oceans. Cold, nutrient-rich waters created massive seasonal blooms of krill concentrated in dense patches. Whales that could eat more in a single gulp survived better, and natural selection drove them toward gigantism at an astonishing pace. The blue whale is not just the largest animal alive today. It's the largest animal that has ever existed, bigger than any dinosaur, any prehistoric marine reptile, any creature in the 4 billion-year history of life on Earth. 40 million krill per day. 40 million. That's how many krill a single blue whale eats in one day. Every day during feeding season, a blue whale consumes approximately 3.6 tons of food, roughly the weight of a large pickup truck, eaten daily. How does an animal with a throat barely wider than a basketball consume this much? Through one of nature's most efficient feeding mechanisms, lunge feeding. A blue whale accelerates toward a dense swarm of krill, opens its mouth to nearly 90 degrees, and in a single lunge engulfs up to 110 tons of water and prey, more than its own body weight. Its throat expands like a balloon as dozens of ventral grooves stretch outward. Then it pushes the water out through its baleen plates, hundreds of overlapping keratin filters that trap the tiny krill while letting seawater drain away. The entire process takes less than 10 seconds, and the whale does this up to 100 times per day. The energy math is staggering. A single lunge costs roughly 1,000 calories of effort, but each successful lunge can capture up to 500,000 calories of krill. That's a 500-to-1 return on investment, making blue whale feeding one of the most energy-efficient hunting strategies ever evolved. But this feast doesn't last forever. Blue whales eat almost nothing for 6 to 8 months of the year, surviving on fat reserves built up during the summer feeding frenzy. They migrate thousands of kilometers from polar feeding grounds to tropical breeding waters, burning through reserves at roughly 1 ton of body weight per week. 37 trillion cells, almost no cancer. A blue whale has over 37 trillion cells, roughly 1,000 times more than a human body. Every time a cell divides, there's a chance of a cancerous mutation. More cells means more divisions. More divisions means more chances for cancer. By this logic, large animals should be riddled with tumors. Elephants should have higher cancer rates than mice. Blue whales should be swimming tumors. But they're not. Elephants get cancer at about the same rate as humans. And whales, with 1,000 times more cells, have some of the lowest cancer rates of any mammal. This is Peto's paradox, named after epidemiologist Richard Peto, who first identified the contradiction in the 1970s. It has baffled scientists for decades. How do whales beat the odds? The answer appears to lie in their DNA. As whale species evolved larger bodies, they also evolved extra copies of tumor suppressor genes. While humans have 2 copies of the critical p53 gene, our primary defense against cancerous mutations, elephants have 40 copies. Whales are suspected to have evolved similar genetic amplifications, alongside enhanced DNA repair mechanisms that catch and fix mutations before they spiral out of control. There's also the hypertumor hypothesis. In extremely large animals, tumors themselves may develop secondary tumors, cancers of the cancer, that parasitize the original tumor and effectively destroy it. A tumor killing a tumor. The whale's body may have turned cancer's own strategy against itself. Scientists are now studying whale DNA to develop new cancer therapies for humans. If we can understand how a 37 trillion cell animal avoids cancer, we might unlock treatments that could save millions of lives. Whale fall, 1 death, a century of life. When a whale dies in the open ocean, its massive body slowly sinks to the seafloor, sometimes 3,000 meters or more below the surface. In one of the most remarkable events in marine biology, this single carcass becomes an entire ecosystem. Scientists call it whale fall, and it can sustain life for up to 100 years. The first stage begins within hours. Mobile scavengers, hagfish, sleeper sharks, crabs, and amphipods descend on the carcass in enormous numbers. A single whale fall can attract tens of thousands of individual organisms. In this feeding frenzy, scavengers can consume 40 to 60 kilograms of flesh per day, stripping a 40-ton whale to its bones in as little as 4 to 24 months. But the whale's contribution is far from over. The second stage is the enrichment phase. The bones, saturated with lipids, begin to leak oils into the surrounding sediment, creating a nutrient-rich zone that supports dense colonies of worms, crustaceans, and other invertebrates. Species diversity around a whale fall can be 3 to 5 times higher than the surrounding deep-sea floor. Then comes the final and longest stage, the chemosynthetic phase. Bacteria colonize the whale bones and begin breaking down the lipids stored within. This process produces hydrogen sulfide, which feeds chemosynthetic bacteria, organisms that derive energy from chemicals rather than sunlight. These bacteria form the base of a food web that can persist for 50 to 100 years. Over 400 species have been identified at whale fall sites, including at least 30 species found nowhere else on Earth. Some scientists believe whale falls serve as stepping stones for deep-sea life, connecting isolated chemosynthetic ecosystems like hydrothermal vents and cold seeps across the vast, food-poor abyssal plains. Without whale falls, entire communities of deep-sea organisms might never have evolved. One whale's death creates 100 years of life. In the deep sea, nothing is wasted. Thanks for watching. The largest animal that has ever existed breathes air like you do, nurses its young with milk, eats 40 million krill per day, defies cancer with 37 trillion cells, and when it dies, creates an entire world on the ocean floor that lasts a century. Whales are not just animals. They are ecosystems, medical mysteries, and evolutionary marvels all at once. And there is still so much we don't know about them. Like and subscribe. See you next time.